Hey y'all, welcome back to Small Town Southern Wife. Tonight I'm making fried pork chops and I wanted to show y'all how we're going to do it. We're using a secret that keeps your batter on your pork chops and keeps it from falling off, and I wanted to share it with y'all how we do that. And afterwards I'm going to use the grease and the butter that we cook the pork chops in and the bits and the goodness that comes off the pork chops to show y'all how to make country gravy. So come on and let me show you everything you're going to need. Two cups of flour is what we're going to use. Okay, this is what you're going to need for your pork chops. You're going to need 2 cups of flour, 2 heaping tablespoons of cornstarch, 1 big tablespoon of total seasoning, some black pepper and salt, and some smoked paprika. And then in the flour mixture, I'm going to put about 1/4 of a cup of French onions crushed up real fine in the flour mixture. And then you're going to need about 6 to 8 pork chops, depending on how many you want to cook at once. I've just had these all in one package, so I'm going to cook them all at once and use them up. But that's what you're going to need. Okay, we've got our dried onions in this little thing. I really don't know what you call this. Al and them got me this whenever they went on a cruise. But we're going to smush the dried onions up into like a powder, or as fine as I can get it. And if you don't like onions, you could leave this out, but for the ones that don't like them, they'll never know. Okay, got that mixed up. We'll set that over there. And then we're going to take our flour right there. And I'm going to go ahead and put my onion mixture in the flour. So, because these onions have a little oil, that way that flour will soak up some of that oil. And toss it in there. Whoop. I'm throwing flour. And once you have your flour mixed, the onions mixed in your flour real good, we'll add the other ingredients. Okay, we're going to put the total seasoning. I'm going to put a tablespoon of that in there. Good size, full tablespoon. And I had to go get some cornstarch because I didn't have enough, so I need to open that new one. Okay. And in your mixture, I'm going to put 1 big tablespoon of cornstarch in my flour mixture. I've already got my pan heating up, so it'll be ready when we get the pork chops back. Okay. What I have right here is a little oil. And I'm going to take that oil and I'm going to coat it on my pork chops. Just a little. Just to make my the other tablespoon of my cornstarch that we're going to use. And I may use a little bit more than a tablespoon, but we're going to coat these pork chops with the cornstarch on both sides. So let's do this side first. And what I'm going to use is this little sifter. I'm actually just going to put a teaspoon at a time in there. And then I'm going to take this and just barely dust my pork chops with that little bit of cornstarch. And I may use just one more tablespoon because it's going further than I thought it would. But I'll get this side with this teaspoon and then put one more for the other side and let it soak it in there. And that right there is going to help your batter stick to your pork chops a lot better. Okay. Set that right there. And then I'm going to flip them and oil the other side before we start putting the mixture on, the batter mix. Coat this side real good. Okay, now we're going to put our other teaspoon of cornstarch in there. And then sprinkle it over the top of these. Let me move all this out of my way now. And then I'm going to bring this over here. Move this around so we can see. And I'm going to start dipping my pork chops down in this mixture and sort of like mashing it so it can get in, because these are what do they call that, like tenderized, cubed. They've been run through a cuber. That's what it's called. Travis has a cuber, and what he does is he buys these pork loins in one big loin, and then he cuts them the size he wants them, and he runs them through the cuber to make them tender, easier to eat. Okay. And I'm going to grab me another platter to put these on. Hold on one second. I got my other platter that I'm going to put them on until I get them in the skillet, so I don't have to put them back on that wet tray. And this tray right here was Travis's mama's and daddy's. They've had for years and years, ever since they lived in Tennessee. And we've had it for a long time. He actually gave it to him a long time ago. We've been using them ever since. They make good trays to put your steaks on when you're grilling out. And if you wanted to, you really could probably do 1 cup of flour, depending on how many pork chops you have. I hear my oil over there getting ready. Just coat them real good. Sort of mash it. It'll get down in those little crevices of the tenderloin. Okay, we like 2 more. Okay, now that you got them all battered, let's clean this mess up. We're going to move over to the stove. Okay, and that little plate, the rest of the oil that you had left over, go ahead and put that in your oil so you don't waste it. And you can tell it's getting good and hot. It's ready. Okay, so let's go ahead and start putting our pork chops in there. And I'm just going to set them in there real easy. Don't let them fall or it might splatter you, because that grease is good and hot. And see how the butter's in there with the oil, and that's going to give them the buttery taste. That's how they make. That's what's going to make them extra better, you know, good and better. All right, y'all see that oil right there mixed with that butter? That's going to give it the pork chops that buttery taste you want, but not burnt. If you burn your butter, you have to empty your skillet out and start all over, because if you burn butter, it'll make your other food, what comes up behind that you're going to fry, have that burnt taste. So if you ever get your butter if it starts burning, just pour it out and wipe out your skillet and start over. Okay, they're getting, see how pretty and brown they're getting? That's how I like them. And that's how Travis likes them too. You see, it gives you that little bit of crispiness on it if you let them get just like right in that brown airs, you know, stage, whatever you want to call it. But that makes them good right there when you let that little crispy stuff get on them. Then I wash my platter right here. I'm going to set them over here once I take them out so I can get the others cooked. And then after we get them cooked, we're going to make our gravy. But let's let that side cook just for a few minutes and we'll take them out. Whew, they smell good. Bonnie thinks so too. Bonnie, you think they smell good? I want one, Mama. there's what they look like. I'm dripping oil, but I wanted to show y'all what they look like up close. Now we gotta put the other ones in, and that butter, it smells good. You can smell that butter in your oil, and it's not burnt, so I can reuse this oil. One little bitty one that came apart. That one will be the best one. Okay. But right there is what they look like. And we still got to do our gravy. Okay, that's the second batch cooking. And when they get done, we'll do our gravy. Okay, everybody, here's the pork chops after I got them out. I got both batches out. I had to cook them 2 different times, but I just wanted to show y'all what they look like and how crispy and how the batter stays on your pork chops using that little bit of cornstarch. Now let's make the gravy. Okay, now let's make the gravy. We've got our grease still good and hot, and we got all the bits out of the pork chops that we're going to use to flavor that with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a big, probably like 2 teaspoons of flour. A little bit more, about 2 good sized teaspoons, maybe 3, in that flour, in that oil. And you got to cook your flour a few minutes. That way you can get all that taste of the flour out of it. Let that oil cook and that butter cook your flour down. And when you stop seeing the white lumps and you let that flour cook just a few minutes, and get all those good bits off the bottom of that pan. I know that's a bad racket, but we got to scrape those bits out of that iron skillet, because that's where all the goodness is at. And then we're going to let that cook for about 3 to 4 minutes just to get all that flour cooked, so because we don't want our gravy to taste like flour. So then I'm going to go ahead and start pouring in my milk. I got about 2 cups of milk right here. And I'm going to use about 1 cup of water and water that milk down just a little. Get all that mixed together. Turn it down just a little bit. We don't want it to get too hot because it'll start popping out. Okay, I'm going to add just a little touch more of my water. And thin it out some now that it's getting good and thick, but I don't want it that thick. Okay. When you get it the thickness you want it, after that, I'm gonna get just a tiny bit more water. Because Travis don't like it too thick. He don't like his gravy real thick. So we're going to get it a little bit thinner. I hope y'all, make sure y'all can see. That's about right there. See how it'll come off the spoon? Then I'm going to add a little bit more black pepper. A little salt. And just a little bit of onion powder to my gravy. Not much. Stir all that in. Bonnie, what do you smell? What are you doing? Huh? Come here. Depending on, you might want it a little thicker, you might want it a little bit more runnier, depending on how you like it. But I'm going to leave it just about like that right there where it comes off the spoon. You see all those bits and that the brown little pieces that come off the pork chops? That's going to make that gravy good. So I'll show you when we get our plate fixed. Okay, y'all, here's what the plate looks like. We're having the pork chops, the cream potatoes and gravy, and I decided to do a biscuit with gravy, and that's for supper tonight. I hope y'all try this and use the cornstarch and see how it makes your batter stay on your pork chops better. So hope you give it a try. Thanks for watching, and if you like our video, give us a thumbs up.